Hello, my name is Devin Engel, and I'm one of the business analysts here at Rapid POS. And today I'd like to give you a tour of our ShipStation connector. We primarily use our ShipStation connector to push information about order release tickets up to ShipStation so that you can quickly generate a shipping label. Some of our clients also use this for pushing up posted transfer outs, especially if they're going to be shipping them to a different location. To show you how this works, let's go into Counterpoint. If you've not yet seen this version of Counterpoint, this is version 8.6.4, and it just has a little bit of a different look to it. As I mentioned, we push up information about order release tickets. So that means we have to begin with an order. We'll set this to an order line. We have our customer on our order, but we're only going to push up release tickets that have a shipping address on them. If they don't have a ship to address, the presumption is they'll be picked up in store. So we'll have to come in here under our customer functions and be sure we set our ship to address. Now we have the option to set up a ship via code if we would like to do that. There's a lookup here. We can push up information to ShipStation about maybe if we're planning to do 2-day shipping or ground shipping or overnight, or if we're planning to send it specifically using USPS. There's a lot of different options here, and you can configure all of these options yourself. So this might look different for every client. For right now, though, we're just going to leave this blank. If we leave it blank, but we have a shipping address, it will push up to ShipStation. We can also set a target ship date if we would like. Let's go ahead and set that. And we'll click OK. We're going to accept payment. And so we have our cash payment here, and we will complete this. That means that we have our order. We also have our deposit ticket because we took a cash deposit. We'll close out of this. Now we need to release that order. And if there were multiple lines on the order, we could do multiple releases against it as we shipped things out. In this case, we just have the one line, we'll release the whole order at once. So we will come in here, we will process our order. That's our order, we'll release it. We'll complete that release since we're going to release all of the items on it. It's already been paid for. We can confirm the ship to address right now if we would like. We could also change the ship to address right now if we wanted. We could change the shipping date. Maybe we have to push this out a day. And we can click OK here. When we're ready to complete this release ticket, we'll click the complete button here. And we'll see here that we have an order number, our order number with the appendix of our release ticket. So this was order 101-40196, and our release ticket is -01. Again, if we had multiple lines on this order and we were releasing them separately, this would increase. So it would be 02, 03, 04. We'll close out of this, and now we'll go take a look at what this looks like in ShipStation. So if we open orders, we can see this order pushed up immediately. We've got our order number. We have the person that it's being shipped to, their address. We have some pricing information about the product. That ship by date that we changed is displayed here. Remember that our product was 24 ounces. Let's just go take a look at that item in Counterpoint so that you can see how this is set up. On the other tab, this weight was set to 1.5, meaning 1.5 pounds, because this is configured to assume that this is in pounds. We can configure it to assume that it's in ounces or grams if you prefer that. Most clients do configure it as pounds, though. Let's go back to ShipStation, and you'll see it translated that to 1 pound, 8 ounces. We have our 24-ounce jar of raspberry jam on the ticket. It's awaiting shipment. We did not specify FedEx or USPS or 2-day or anything like that. So this is showing up as not specified, but if we had indicated, it would be here. And from here, you can go ahead and create your shipping label and do your shipment. If you would like to see a full list of all of the information that is pushed up to ShipStation from a release ticket, we do have a complete mapping available in our ShipStation connector guide. There's one really important thing that I'd like to talk about when it comes to addresses. Let's take a look in Counterpoint, and we'll take a look at our customer. You can see that our address for this customer does not have a country. If this is left blank, the assumption is that it's US. However, if you put a 3-character country code in here, it will encounter an error and that information will not be pushed up to ShipStation. So it's really important to use US or CA for Canada. ShipStation provides a list that you can reference for all of the various country codes that they accept. Once you have created a label in ShipStation and you have a tracking number, that tracking number is imported back into Counterpoint. A separate task runs approximately every 15 minutes that looks for updated tracking numbers and imports them back into Counterpoint. You can see here if you open the ticket and you click on Package Tracking Numbers tab, the tracking number is listed here. For those of you that have multiple inventory locations and you sometimes ship packages between your inventory locations, let's take a quick look at how a transfer out works. If we go into Inventory, Transfers, Transfer Out, and we enter a new transfer out, we can set our transfer location, which will allow us to then enter lines. Let's move, again, some of that raspberry jam. And you'll see that once the ShipStation connector is installed for you, there's this new custom tab here and the opportunity to select a ship via code. If the ship via code is left blank, it will not push the posted transfer out information to ShipStation. Whereas on an order release ticket, if it was blank, it did push it. Here, you have to add a ship via code in order for it to be pushed. So we can take a look. Perhaps we want to just send this ground shipping. We'll come back here to the main tab and we will post it. And then we can go check ShipStation. And as you can see, the transfer out has pushed up. Here we have our ship to address of the location that will be receiving these items. We are not pushing up any line details on our transfer outs currently, so you're not going to see any detail here, but we do push up the requested shipping carrier. So this could have been USPS or UPS, or we can change it to ground. And now we have that information in here and we can use that information to select a service that we would like to use. Next, let's look at some of the configuration options available for our ShipStation connector in Counterpoint. The configuration options for the ShipStation connector are exposed in the user interface, so you can take a look at them anytime you'd like. We have an account name, the username, and the API key, which are all used to identify your account. This is enabled checkbox over here is used for temporarily stopping your connector, especially when our programmers are doing some troubleshooting. This send warehouse ID is for clients with multiple locations in Counterpoint and multiple ship from locations configured in ShipStation. So each ship from location in ShipStation actually gets a warehouse ID. The programmers do have to go get that information because it's not readily available in the user interface. For example, we can come in here to our settings. Under shipping, we can select ship from locations. We can see that we currently have 2 ship from locations configured in here. However, ShipStation does not expose the warehouse ID, that is backend information, yet we can have our programmers get that piece of information and set it in Counterpoint for you. If we navigate back to our locations, we can see that there's a custom tab here as well, and it includes the ShipStation warehouse ID value. This ID value gets assigned to our locations in Counterpoint, and then when transactions are pushed from Counterpoint up to ShipStation, the ship from location can be set in addition to the ship to location from the release ticket or the posted transfer out. We can also return back to our configuration to see that the next option here is our order weight unit. We can configure this to go up as pounds, ounces, or grams. And again, that's because in Counterpoint, we don't have a value for the unit of measure on our weights. So we need to decide what that's going to be for all of our products in Counterpoint. If you currently have your weight field filled in some cases it's pounds, some cases it's ounces, in some cases it's grams, you're going to have to standardize that data in Counterpoint in order for it to be useful in ShipStation. As I mentioned earlier, the connector has a separate task that runs every 15 minutes that pulls in tracking information. This is just the date timestamp for the last time that happened in UTC time. We also have a display here that shows what version of the connector you're currently using. And as I mentioned earlier, ShipStation can have multiple stores configured. We'll find that here under Settings and Store Setup. In this case, we currently have 2 different stores configured. These are more like marketplaces. Perhaps you have one for your point of sale, one for your e-commerce platform. Maybe you have another one just for handling your transfers, something along those lines. You can configure these stores in ShipStation. And then in Counterpoint, you can configure which store ID is going to be used for your release tickets, and if you're sending up transfer outs, which ShipStation store is used for your transfer outs. These can also both be the same value if you just want to push both to one. The rest of these configuration options are settings that the programmers use for troubleshooting and optimizing your connector, so you don't ever need to change any of those. Let's go back and touch on our ship via codes just one more time so that you can see that in a little bit more detail as well. This one is for buy online, pick up in store. It's not a valid vendor code, but it is valid ship via code for customer records, meaning a customer ticket or customer order can be set to buy online, pick up in store. In that case, though, you would not want a release ticket to go up to ShipStation. So the send release ticket to ShipStation is unchecked. Also, this is not a valid option for transfers, so that box is unchecked and we would not send this transfer to ShipStation either. Let's take a look at another example. This one is for delivery with an internal van. It's not valid for vendor and it's also not valid for customer, but it is a valid way to deliver transfers between different locations. However, again, we would not need to push this up to ShipStation. It wouldn't require a shipping label to do that. Let's take a look at another example. The next one is for FedEx, which is a valid ship via code for vendors. It's also a valid ship via code for customers. And if a customer places an order and then there's a release ticket that has the ship via code on it, we definitely want to push that up to ShipStation so that a label can be generated. Also, if there's a store-to-store transfer and the ship via code is set to FedEx, that's another situation where we would want to send it to ShipStation to make sure that we create a shipping label for that transfer. In addition to looking at the ship via codes individually, we can put this in table view and we can look at all of them together. So we can see that some of them are valid for customer. For example, this overnight shipping option and would be pushed to ShipStation if there was a release ticket that had that on it. But in this case, this client does not have overnight shipping valid for store-to-store transfers, and they do not want that pushing up to ShipStation. Keep in mind that all of these ship via codes are defined by you. So you will enter whatever ship via codes you want to be available in Counterpoint and set all of these configuration options. So it's entirely customizable to what works best for your business. Now that we have talked about sending ship via codes up to ShipStation, let's see what that really looks like in ShipStation. Here's an example of an order that has been pushed up to ShipStation. And in this case, it was sent up with the ship via code of 2-day shipping. So when we come over here for our service, we know that they requested 2-day shipping. We can select a 2-day shipping option. Let's go with this one. When we then print the label and get a tracking number, that tracking number will come back into Counterpoint. But currently, the ship via code would just be set to 2-day, which isn't really descriptive enough. So instead, we designed a way where we can update the ship via code to be more specific. This is where the ShipStation carriers table comes into play. So if we close out of our ship via codes and we navigate back to our main connector, we'll see ShipStation carriers listed here. Here's an example of a carrier code in ShipStation with the carrier name of FedEx One Balance. Our ShipStation provider ID is listed here. The question is, whenever a tracking number comes into Counterpoint with a carrier code of FedEx, what do we want the ship via code in Counterpoint to get updated to? So changing it from 2-day to something else. And in this case, we want it to get changed to FedEx. If we wanted to change it to any other thing, maybe this was specific to FedEx 2-day, we could create a ship via code for FedEx 2-day and have it update to that. So again, this is completely configurable and it just allows you more specificity when you're looking at your tracking numbers that come back into Counterpoint. This is not a function that you have to use. It's just handy if you tend to look at your tracking numbers in Counterpoint frequently. As a refresher, the ShipStation connector is designed to push up order release tickets that have a ship-to address on them to ShipStation so that labels can be created quickly. In addition, it can also push up posted transfer outs for store-to-store transfers, and it pulls back in the tracking information into Counterpoint. Rapid is here to answer any questions you have about our ShipStation connector, so please feel free to reach out anytime. Thanks.